my story because a lot of it highlights what I think I think there's an old model to networking and more so like career search. And I think there's probably a newer model. So Patrick, should I?
Yeah, you go right ahead and tell
fire
us
away?
what we should know.
Okay, great. So I want to start from the beginning because the beginning is the best. Here's the plug for Professor Zorro here. My first internship in undergrad was at Bank of America. And it was none other than my finance professor that essentially saw the initiative that I had and the excitement. But more importantly, I became friends with my professor, and he got to know me as a person. And academics, certainly important, aptitude, motivation. But he knew me as a person, and he trusted me. So he recommended me for an internship at Bank of America, which I did throughout the summer, in risk management, quantitative finance. So, what was that? That lesson is about connections, personal connections, not just resumes, not just grades. Those things are important, but personal connections with real people, it goes a long way. So, once I was in with the mothership at Bank of America, then then the opportunities continued with, again, personal relationships. I wanted to get into the investment bank, and I had met an individual that was working with the investment bank that I had some contact with, and again, personal relationship with them. It wasn't like a friend of a friend. It wasn't some sort of ask that I had. It was just a coworker, someone that I interacted with. So what was the lesson there? Once you do get into a job, obviously work hard and produce, but make friends, meet coworkers, spend time outside of work with people that you work with, people that you interact with, because you never know where those opportunities will live. Okay. Next one, because all of these have like little lessons that I think are important. Okay, so I do Bank of America, I get investment banking, great. I go to business school, and after business school, I was like, okay, I want a job in private equity. So I got my university to pay for my conference ticket. I don't know if they do that at Lehigh, but I got them to pay for my conference ticket to private equity conference. And what did I do? Did I walk around and just, try to budge into conversations? No, I didn't. I went to their like expo area where they set up tables, right? And all the different firms were there. Investment bankers were trying to meet private equity firms. There was no one like me asking for jobs. And I went to each one of the private equity firms, and I was just like, I'm Tom Lombardi. I'm motivated and interested in working. And I did that to 25 different firms. And one of them liked me, and and I went down to visit them, and again, personal relationships, got to meet them. Great. So I worked at private equity. So that one was just about like finding, so like a conference for the position that you want to go to, get an airline ticket, put money together, sleep on someone's couch, get to that conference, right? Get to that conference. Okay, next. Here's where things shift a little bit. Okay. And this is really the I think the important part of this. The world has changed. Social media is so, pervasive and global. You have an opportunity to show your knowledge, your work, potentially your skills, without ever having a personal relationship with anyone. Use that, right? Use that. I'll give you a great example. So I sort of about 2.5 years ago, I had this revelation that so I work in Web3, blockchain, crypto, and I had this initiative, very clear initiative. Right now, I have a different one, I mean, it's similar, but the initiative was, I want to bring Bitcoin to the Main Street masses. I want to find a way for people to get easy exposure to Bitcoin as an asset. That was it. It wasn't about like hedge funds, institutions, advisors, it wasn't about like the next new blockchain technology. It was like, how do I get Bitcoin adoption in for people like my father or my uncles, right? Very simple. And that opportunity was with, you've heard of like funds. So Grayscale has a closed-end fund called the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And 3IQ in Canada now has the largest Bitcoin fund in Canada. There's 21 shares. There's Bitwise. There's a group of 10 companies that have the opportunity to do this. So what I did is, and I'll put the paper in Primer Bitcoin. Here it is. What I did was, let's see. Now you're going to get distracted. I said, this is a space I want to work in. And these are the companies that I want to work for. So I wrote this paper, which I just linked to Zoom. I wrote this paper, primer. That's what bankers call like informational research, a primer on Bitcoin funds, and included in these funds, CoinShares, Grayscale, 3IQ, Bitwise. And what I did was, and it's detailed, it's accurate. I sent it to all of them as a basic, just like, hey, I just want to make sure I get all the facts straight. Can you, verify this information? And they all did, right? Even Grayscale, I had a conference call with them, and their head of, general counsel and their head of compliance, and they went through word by word, and they were like, yeah, it looks great. But I used that paper to get in touch with all of these potential employers. And what does it do? They don't have to know who I am. They just know that I'm going to create something that has their name on it, that could have some press, and they want to verify it. As a result, they were able to witness, consume my knowledge and understand who I am, what my background is, and what my interest is. It's exactly what they do. So after that, I had, job offers from these firms. I went with 3IQ because 3IQ had just launched the first closed-end fund in Canada that was prospectus-based. So it was unique. It was a unique global product. And I'm an investor, and I've worked for them for, a few years now. So here's that lesson. What did I do? I used social media to project my passion, project my expertise, to engage people in a conversation. I didn't ask them for meetings. I didn't ask them for interviews. I didn't send them my resume. I put things out there that were like hooks. And they came to me and said, oh, we need a call. We need to talk about this. We need to learn more about this, right? I pulled them in. That's powerful. And so what I tell my students, because now I teach at Pepperdine University, is that, you find one or three areas of study. It could be anything. Specifically, it should be what you want to go into as a career, and use that topic and write. Writing's tough, especially when you're going to put it out into the public. If you're like me, you have low self-esteem and you think that everyone's going to judge you for your poor grammar and your whatever. And so I had to get over that. But there's no better way for people to learn about you and learn about your expertise than them getting it in their feed, because then it doesn't require an introduction. It doesn't require a friend of a friend. It doesn't require interviews. I have to, like, I hire people, which is fun, get to meet new people, but interviewing is hard. And I'm like insanely selective about who I put on the call list. And sometimes it's just based on their resume. So I'm looking for top caliber universities. I'm looking for expertise. Like, it's a tough set. But the last person I hired was a referral from someone that I work with. And they didn't have that top caliber. Once I got them on the phone, they were awesome. So I guess the point is that I don't want to interview people, because I don't want to go through a test of whether does this person have the knowledge that I need. I don't want to have to find that out on a 20-minute call. I'd rather read something that they wrote that tells me that they're thinking about the right things, or they're just being creative, or they're inquisitive, right? And so that's where, like, personal relationships are great. Use them as much as you can, but use social media, write about what you love. You're going to get people who ask questions. You didn't think about this. What about that? But you capture such a wide global net of people. And that's kind of on the hook. And then secondly, and I want to open it up. The other good part is, like, let's say you're already in a interview process. When people are hired, it's largely by committee. It's usually not the person who interviews you the first time is usually not the decision maker. They may be in HR, they may be, part of an analyst of the group, but hiring's by committee. And so what happens? Let's say you get into an interview, and it goes all right. And then there's 5 decision makers within that process. What do you think they do to make that decision? Do they read your resume? Maybe. Do they talk to the person that interviewed? Maybe. You know what I do? I Google you. It's an easy one. You guys do it all the time, right? With, like, friends or whatever. Google. They're going to Google you. And what's going to show up when they Google Tom Lombardi? Okay, they go to LinkedIn. What's pinned at the top of my profile? A recent paper that I wrote. And I pinned it because I'm interested in XYZ and I'm interviewing for XYZ. And so you're making it easy for companies to get comfortable with your knowledge, your proficiency. You're advertising your skills well beyond your resume. So write, publish, get on LinkedIn, Twitter.
This is interesting because now you'd say 2 things interesting. The first one is, yes, I don't think students, you make use of LinkedIn enough to, I mean, yeah, I like this or I don't like that, but I think they should spend more. They should get out there more and say stuff that obviously within the context of what it is that they're looking for. So I think that's important. And the other thing that you mentioned, somebody had a conversation with a student this week, and I think he's in here somewhere. Is Charles with us? Yes, he is. So basically, the world falls into 3 categories. What you know, which is basically, if you're a smart student, you have great GPA, you got lots of knowledge, so they're going to hire you for that. Who you know, your network, which is, you kind of refer to that, but you're also referring to something that not many people refer to, is basically, what can you do?
Mm.
right? And
Yep.
that is different. So this is what you did. You went out and you did something. You say, hey, look what I have. And then if they like this thing that you have, maybe they won't look at too much as the school you went to or the grades that you have, and the typical, because then the typical is this what kills us. Well, there's thousands. I know that Shatali went to the IAQF last week, a job fair. There was like 300 students, all dressed the same. That's a competition. You need to differentiate. So I think this is interesting. What you just, what you can do. And that's something I'm pushing the students to do more and more. Like, what can you do? Well, I have a project that I've been working on. When then talk about the project,
Mhm.
put it out there more, because otherwise you're just waiting for them to tell you, okay, I got a job. Who wants it? And
Right.
then 300 people run after the same job, and then
Right.
you get knocked down because of statistics, frankly. So it's so much more difficult that way. Although the other side is difficult in a different way, because you have to be more enterprising, create something, which I think there's a lot of stuff you've done, especially at the blockchain. For what's going on with blockchain today?
Um,
Is it
it
really
is
down? Is it as
the blockchain is good. It's not
okay?
down. Good.
Okay.
Blockchain is good. No.
Okay.
There's a lot of shifting sentiment. I mean, Bitcoin as a reserve asset has held supreme for years now. There are a lot more competing blockchains for things like decentralized finance, NFTs. But unfortunately, there's so many scams. There's no hacks, right? You hear the word hacks around, like Mango Markets was just hacked for $100, or Terra Luna was hacked. These were not hacked. These were not code exploits. These were social exploits. They were designed poorly, and someone used that to their advantage. And so certainly experiments going on, but the long-term vision holds true. With any new innovation, internet, cell phones, even the telephone, there were scams, abundant scams, and people weary of the technology. So we're just going through that phase. Plus, we have Washington spending a lot of time thinking about how they're going to suppress
Regulate
digital money, because they're competing against digital money. They have real money. So that will be fun over the next few years.
You meant regulate. You didn't. You meant regulate, not suppress. That's what
Both.
it's.
Suppression by regulation.
Yeah. Interesting. Any question?
Think about it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
here's the basic thing, right? Like, let's say, who is it? The former CEO of Microsoft, not Bill Gates. Anyways, he was like, back in the day when the iPhone came out, he says, well, iPhone's going to be nothing. He's like, it's a toy, it's an experiment, because he didn't build the iPhone. He was in direct competition. The government manages money, the global reserve asset, US dollar, which is super powerful. We're seeing it. We're seeing the sort of backlash of it today with inflation. But if something like Bitcoin comes around, whether it's innovative or not, it's in direct competition with the thing that they do. So it's natural. I expect over-regulation. I expect these claims about money laundering, which are completely baseless. I expect things around stable coins being scrutinized, because they could cause a run on the banking system, which they won't. So it's just this is a phase that I fully expected to survive through.
Any question for our guest?
Can
Hey,
you guys hear
Remus.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for presenting and really got a lot of insights with, especially in networking. And I guess my question is that right now, when I'm trying to network, I kind of hit a problem is that when trying to talk to people that is in the analyst or associate level, it's certainly hard to kind of get into the conversation, get them to be interested in me. And while talking to someone who's higher up in the executive manager level, it seems like either they don't have the time or kind of get the feeling that they just want to push me off to someone else.
Mhm.
So I guess it's not really about what I can present, but really finding the right person. What is your suggestion on how do I really get to the point like having the same experience like yours to talk to the right person, get them interesting, and essentially get something out of it? Either it's
Yeah.
a conversation or a job referral, or just kind of having a continuous relationship in for networking.
Sure, sure. No, I mean, that's a good question. And is this for, it sounds like bank or consulting firm or?
Right, mostly advisory, consulting, and
Yeah, so
investment banks.
and I think that process is a little bit more difficult because it is very structured, right? You do have the path of recruiting, vetting, selecting a group of 20 analysts. That was one thing that I was able to bypass because I began from working with one of the higher ups, getting to know him personally. He just dropped me into the analyst program. So, I mean, I feel like Patrick hit it. Like it's their applicants are largely going to be a homogenous group of people, same resume, same grades, and it's just how do you get selected for the call, right? How do you get selected for the interview? And then it's up to you, right? Then it's up to you and your ability to present yourself and to portray your thoughts. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to put your sales hat on and just ambush. I've done this before. Sometimes you have to figure out what email addresses are, right? If it's Tom at 3IQ and you want to get in touch with Bill, give Bill at 3IQ a shot. But I'll tell you this though, like even in that, I mean, I really go back to like show me the money, right? Show me what, give me a reason give me a reason to differentiate you. And you have to stand out. So how do you do that, right? You got to sort of peacock yourself and stand out. And I mean, I can't think of a better way than to share your work, right? Share your work. And even if it isn't like